Today. So I will start by reading the notices that we have on our agenda. So there is a notice of the option to recess into executive session pursuant to ARS section 38-431.02. Notice is hereby given to the members of the commission and to the general public that at this regular meeting, the commission may vote to go into executive session, which will not be open to the public, for legal advice and discussion with the city's attorneys for legal advice on any item listed on the following agenda pursuant to ARS section 38-431.03 subsection A3. Item number 2 on our agenda today is roll call. So I will turn that over to Justina. Is that right for roll call?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure who's doing it today.
Marissa, do you have it in front of you?
I do. I can do it.
Thank you. I do not have it.
Yeah, Eric Brownfield.
Here.
Tyler Denham is absent. Kevin Doby is absent. Karen Flores. All right, Sandy Flores.
I'm here.
I'm having trouble getting Jackie Kellogg in, so we'll come back to her. Devonna McLaughlin.
I'm here.
Moses Milazzo is absent. Corey Runge.
I'm here.
Ross Schaefer.
Here.
Glenn Slivers. Is absent. Haley Zoroya.
Here.
And Kevin Bond, I believe, is absent. And then Jackie Kellogg. Justina, are you able to help her get in?
You're muted, Justina.
Roy, no.
Thank you. I've been trying to let her in as well. Let me try to contact her differently.
Okay.
I don't know. It must be a computer glitch on her end.
I can note what time she comes in.
Admit her. It has me admitting her. I just hit admit, so I don't know why it would give me control, but I just hit admit. Maybe that helps.
Did it work? I think a couple of us have hit it. It says admitting and then it goes away.
Got it.
Yeah, but no, I think everybody should try it and see what happens.
Okay, I can note the time that she makes it in though, if we'd like to move on.
Do we have a quorum even if Jackie's not in?
Let me count again. Sorry, and Karen just emailed me and she's trying to get in as well. But we do not. I have that we have 6 commissioners. So let me forward this link to Karen again. And hopefully Jackie's able to get in and then we'll have quorum.
Okay. So we'll pause while we work on getting folks in, just in case you're keeping tabs.
Hey, Karen, I think now we have a quorum.
Oh, lovely. So if you can let the minutes show that Karen Flores is here as of 1:07 p.m., then we have a quorum to move forward. Thanks, Karen.
I know I was having trouble getting in, and I think Jackie's having trouble too.
She is, and I know we're still working on it. So I appreciate your patience and diligence in getting in, because you are a quorum person. So thank you.
Cool.
So that we've just finished roll call, we'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda. And is there anybody who would like to read the land acknowledgement? I'm happy to take volunteers for that.
I can do it, Devonna.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm not sure who that was, but I appreciate.
It's me, Sandy. Okay.
Oh, okay, Sandy, good.
The Housing Commission humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Thank you, Sandy. We'll move on to item number 4, which is public comment. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled before the commission on that day. Due to open meeting laws, the commission cannot discuss or act on items presented during this portion of the agenda. To address the commission on an item that is on the agenda, please wait for the chair to call for public comment at the time the item is heard. So can staff let me know if anybody has indicated they would like to provide public comment?
I've not
I don't
received
believe we have-
anything. No.
Yeah, thank you, Marissa. Me either.
Okay. And then is there anyone in the meeting itself who would like to provide public comment? I just want to offer that up right now. All right, hearing none and seeing none, then we'll move on to item number 5. Before I do that, I do want to just ask commissioners and or staff or folks who want to speak to let me know that by putting a C or a Q in the chat as we move through the agenda today. That'll help me make sure I don't miss calling on somebody. Please don't comment in the chat on any agenda items so we can make sure to record them. But if you put the C or the Q, then I can call on you. So thank you for that. With that, we'll move on to number 5, approval of minutes. We're looking for consideration and approval of minutes for the Housing Commission meeting held on March 28th, 2024. We would look for that motion to approve the minutes as presented. So does anybody want to make that motion?
This
I
is
can make it
Haley. I
happen.
can motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Zaroya. And then did I see Commissioner Brownfield? Would you be good seconding the motion?
Yes, I'll second it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? Excellent. The minutes pass as presented. Thank you. Item number 6 on our agenda is action and discussion items, and there are none. So that one is super easy to move through. And then we'll move on to item number 7, which is general business. Item 7A is wastewater, reclaimed water, and water rate updates. I believe it's a presentation for information purposes. And am I else?
You've got me for this presentation.
Perfect. Awesome. If you can take it away, then that would be lovely.
All right. Let me find my slides here. Well, good afternoon, commissioners and others on the call. My name is Erin Young. I work in water services. I'm the water resources manager. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today on this important topic for water services and our community. We embarked on a rate study just over a year ago is when we procured Stantec consulting firm. They are experts in the field of rate studies and working with a lot of communities to do exactly what we're doing here in Flagstaff. And may I ask how much time you would like me to take? I have 24 slides. So I think they'll take about 20 minutes, if that's acceptable.
You're absolutely fine taking 20, 30 minutes, Erin. We have until 3
Okay.
o'clock. There's one presentation after yours. So you're good to go.
Okay, thanks.
With
Just
that
so
being
you-
said, Erin, I don't see the slides. Does anyone
you
else?
don't?
I just
Oh.
see an EY in the big space.
Interesting, because I'm sharing my screen, so let me stop and try to
Sorry, I
share
could have been the only one, but I
again.
figured
No,
I should.
Devonna, I couldn't see it either.
Okay.
Can
Now
you
I can.
see it
Oh.
now?
Yeah, no.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. I wish I could move this to another screen, but that's okay. All right, so the presentation is on our water rate study. And next slide. Water services, I guess I'll just provide a quick overview. I'm going to discuss a little bit about our utility and just everything that we do and kind of frame the reason why we're doing this rate study and the need for it, the need for more revenue. And then I'll explain a little bit, I'll give the highlights of where City Council has given us direction. And I've tried to focus that on how it impacts maybe housing or just what we call affordability to pay for water and sewer services. So, and then at the end, I'll provide just where council is at today and the next steps to hopeful adoption of updated water and sewer rates. So our water utility is connected pretty much to everything in Flagstaff. So this slide is to demonstrate that even though a lot of our work is buried underground, we are connecting housing and engineering and all these pieces of the puzzle in Flagstaff, just like water and sewer does in any community. We provide these services to the community 24/7. We strive to do our best in everything we do. And we rely on each other for support from other divisions in Flagstaff. The engineering division helps us deliver a lot of our projects. We take policy direction from council, and that's kind of how we're woven together. As where possible, we work to support the policies of other divisions or initiatives in Flagstaff. And our goal is to provide a quality of life for all. And just an introduction to water services, we have a number of treatment plants, drinking water and water reclamation. We have storage tanks around town. We have a lot of miles of water and sewer mains. We have about 30 drinking water wells. Note that our wells are all pretty deep. The deepest one is 2,800 feet below land surface, with the pump setting maybe 1,800 feet below land surface. So it's expensive to pump groundwater. We also deliver water from Upper Lake Mary and from the Inner Basin. We have a lot of different sections within our division, including regulatory compliance. My section is water resources and water conservation. And our water conservation program helps a lot of customers. They'll help deliver like water audits for homes. If folks are struggling with leaks, we'll try to help them repair leaks. We do have a lot of programs, residential and commercial. So if you're aware of either in your own homes or businesses or any in the community, please share the water conservation program with them, because we do offer a lot of help where we can. Our operations and maintenance program, that's one part of our budget. So we have kind of we have an operations and maintenance budget, and then we have a capital improvement program budget, which is larger than operations and maintenance. But what we wanted to frame here is that if you look across the bottom year by year at our actual expenses for operations and maintenance, you'll see that they really start to rise in 2023 and 2024. And that's that inflation kicking in. Just the cost of so much of our supplies and chemicals have just gone up. Part of the revenue needs address inflation, but we were already having a lot of pressure to add to our revenue. We've had to defer a lot of maintenance in order to pay for just the rising costs in general to do water line replacement projects and just taking care of maintenance at our plants and things like that. We have a lot of deferred maintenance over the years. Let's see here. Was that the slide I was just on? This one? Shoot. Okay, I think I'll move through and hope that I'm in the right place. So we've had insufficient funding. The last rate increase we've had is in 2020. The last time City Council considered rate increases was in 2015. What they approved was a 5-year increase, and then after 2020, we haven't had one. So in the time between then and now, that deferred maintenance need has been growing. So insufficient funding impacts, we're deferring maintenance. It's challenging to maintain newer technology needs in our facilities. We lack resiliency and robustness when we don't repair our older systems. And we're also running on limited personnel resources. So part of the rate increase is just adding, I think it's 2% a year to fund a couple new people each year, mostly in the operations categories. The benefits of funding our programs, sustainable use, having water and sewer services 24/7. We also have a pretty stellar water resources program where we're planning 100 years, several generations out for the community water needs, and we match water needs to the regional plan, available lands for development in the regional plan. So we do a lot of long-term water resource planning. We assure great water quality. We have our regulatory compliance program, doing a lot of sampling and staying engaged with the changing regulations on water quality. We want to always invest in repairing and replacing our aging infrastructure, so we're being proactive and not reactive. And just retaining qualified staff is essential to providing our services. Main breaks happen, and we on average have about 25 annually, but the cost is, let's just say, $100,000 to repair these on average. So that when they happen, we kind of stop everything else we're doing, and the staff have to go react to main breaks. You may have seen the one recently on 4th Street over by the Twin Pines car wash. Now there are no pines there, but that's an example of main breaks getting in the way of regular business. We still have some pipelines that are 100 years old in Flagstaff. We have a lot that are at the end of their useful life. And on our sewer side, kind of the same story. We're trying to replace, I think, 1 mile per year on our sewer line. We have 290 miles, so that's 290 years of replacing these. We want to do more than that. That's a big benefit of the revenue increase is our ability to maybe double that in the coming years. We have a lot of old manholes. And sometimes we see sanitary sewer overflows, especially when we have a lot of snow melt runoff that incidentally gets into the sewer system. Our sewer is a gravity sewer line to our 2 reclamation plants, and because it's located within like the Rio de Flag or other low points within the topography of Flagstaff, we do see some leakage through manhole covers and such. So on our capital program, what is the CIP? It's our capital improvement program. Typically it's informed through master planning efforts. So we have a water infrastructure master plan. We have a sewer system master plan. And they're designed to address the capacity needs while our city grows, but also to inform a prioritization of replacement of aging infrastructure, when to develop new water supplies. Our master plans are available on our website as part of the rate study. Just if you're interested, you can go to cleanwaterflagstaff.com and find our master plans. They really inform the need for our replacement programs and new infrastructure related to growth. Now our current capital improvement plan that is presented to City Council each year, we present to City Council the projects we plan to do within our budget. That is called our approved CIP. Our informed CIP includes everything that the master plan says that we need to do. And then we have an unfunded project list, which are maybe not identified in a master plan, but they're projects that we know need to get done. They just don't have any funding. So City Council gave us approval or support in October to move forward in the rate study for that whole approved plus informed plus unfunded project list. And they said, we know everything needs to be done. Let's see what the rate increases are to support that level of funding. The plan is conservative. The project estimates in that 10-year plan, and I don't know if I have an example here, but I can definitely pull one up. But the list of projects, the numbers, the cost to get those projects done, those estimates might be a little outdated. Just the cost to do projects now are double or triple what they were several years ago when we put the numbers together to support our needs. We do have dependency on external funding sources, such as bonding for some projects or taking on some debt. However, it leaves the more debt we take on, there's little capacity actually, let me back up. No capacity for citywide initiatives just means that the funding we have today for the needs of today leaves little funding left over for citywide initiatives, maybe that touch sustainability goals, housing goals, things like that. That's that fourth bullet. We put together a map of all the projects that or most of the projects that are included in the rate study. So you can see we have 62 projects listed here. So that's a resource if you're interested. This chart is showing for the water, wastewater, and reclaimed water funds what the total CIP funding is over roughly a 9-year period. So $130 million on water. That's our approved CIP that went to council as part of their annual budget process. What we're requesting under this rate study is increasing that to $207 million over 10 years. You can see here the numbers for wastewater and reclaimed water. These are significant increases that we're trying to fund through water rates and capacity fees. This is an example of impacts of insufficient funding. I'm showing here that in 2014, the cost to do a project was just over $3 million. And this is a project, it's called the SED Basins. out at the Lake Mary Water Treatment Plant. I believe the infrastructure we're trying to replace is from the 1960s. And you can just see how the costs to do this project have escalated over time. Our process is we get an engineering estimate to do the work. We then bid the project. In this case, the bids kept coming in higher than our budget. So we go back and try to value engineer out anything that we can live without, if there is anything, and we rebid the project. Well, it kept coming back higher and higher to the point that now the project is just under $9 million to do. So this has been our world for the past, even maybe a little longer than 5 years ago. So we're having to always sort of consistently reprioritize our other projects of the on the list to then fund one of these larger projects. Now moving into the rate study itself. We're required, I believe by law, to do a rate study. We have to have a strong financial analysis and supporting documentation on the need to do our projects. That's the basis for any municipality. Otherwise, we can be challenged legally for not having a financial basis for our rate setting. So it's really important we do these rate studies maybe every 5 years, 3 to 5 years, to make sure that we are proportionally, and I'll just use the word fairly, collecting money across our customer classes to pay for the services that each customer class gets. So that's a residential customer class, multifamily, commercial, manufacturing. Each of those customer classes has its own impact on our water and sewer systems. So the objectives of our rate study was to start with building a financial model, which Stantec provides for us. They are professionals at this, and they start collecting a lot of information from us that is used to then establish what's called a cost of service. They look at each customer class and they want to understand how much revenue each customer class needs to collect that then relates to their impact on our system. So they established a cost of service. We reviewed the rate structure and whether within our objectives of this study, one was we had a lot of customer classes on wastewater, and we wanted to know if we could simplify that rate structure and reduce sort of the administrative burden of administrating a rate structure that has more on the list than maybe we need. And then adjusting the rates and fees. So we're in that part of the rate study now. Again, the last rate study was completed in 2015. The last rate increase was 2020 on water and sewer. And here we are. Any rate changes adopted June 18th and July 2nd would be effective on September 1st on your water and sewer bill or municipal services bill. So in the rate study, there are a number of model assumptions. So I'm showing you a whole list here. What has recently kind of come out of the end of this process with City Council is they landed on a number of direction points to my team and to Stantec. And maybe you've seen in the paper or you've heard about our rate calculator on cleanwaterflagstaff.com, but we've been shopping around like here is what the potential impacts are to customers. And here are the benefits of this, this rate increase. So Council has been listening to the community. They've collected a lot of comments. and we had some some folks come speak to us publicly on April 16th. And council has asked to, what are our levers in this model that might minimize the impact to our customers? The 4 that we focused on just in the last kind of month and a half, the growth rate. Our growth, we're looking not in population, but for water services, it's by number of accounts per year. They could revisit the debt service policy, the cost escalation factors, and the funding sources. The debt service policy, or I'm sorry, the cost escalation factors is basically sort of this inflation factor that's built in. And I thought there was one more. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's not highlighted, but it's our execution rate. And that's how much of that total capital improvement program that we're actually going to deliver. So that can be lowered, and council looked at that as well. Where they were at about a month ago, the direction that they provided us trickled down to your rates and fees and capacity fees. We added this rate calculator on our website where you can enter in your monthly water usage from your bill. You might do a winter and a summer just to compare the two if you do some outdoor watering, but you can run through the calculator and get the next 5 years of impacts. If you were to go there today, we'll be letting customers know on our website that City Council has given us direction just 2 days ago to do a couple things that I'll get into real quick here in a few slides, but you should see a reduction on your bill with the new proposed assumptions in the model. But this is a tool to see the maximum your bill will likely be, just because the recent changes should minimize the impact to our customers. So what has council done so far to minimize the impact to the ratepayer? These are words that I don't know that are common, but using actual flow data versus design flow data was a way that they could minimize the capacity fee. A capacity fee is paid by when a developer or somebody developing a new parcel within like a subdivision, when they buy or they have to pay a capacity fee, and that buys them future capacity or existing capacity that we have in our system, so they can turn on water and have water today and long into the future. They added solids loading component to the capacity fee. That minimizes the capacity fee for those industries producing higher solids. What is important for the residential class, well, actually all classes, they reduced the revenue recovered from the water base fee. If you've looked at your water bill, you'll see a water base fee every month. For most residential, it's like $16.64 a month. That revenue collection from the base fee, they reduce that from 29% to 25%, and that empowers water users to have more control over their bill, because the other percentage we collect from users is the volumetric, so how many gallons you use a month. Here's the 90% execution rate was assumed for our operating budget. Council just gave us direction 2 nights ago to go from 100% to 90% on our capital budget, so that reduces the revenue. That's why the new proposed rate impacts will be lowered, which you'll hear more about on June 4th. They also adjusted this residential tier rates ratio between tier 1 and tier 2 to help the larger families, or not larger families, families with more people in the household, to reduce the impact to those larger or the families with more people in the home. They consolidated customer classes to make the structure simpler, and they adjusted other miscellaneous fees. That's a fee, just off the top of my head, if you called to have your water turned off, we might charge you for that. Those fees, or to come out and set a new water meter or a meter box, something like that. We haven't revisited those fees in quite a long time. So charging the cost of service for those fees actually reduces the amount that the ratepayers subsidize those services. So we have a lot of fees, but that way, we're collecting from people for that service. That was a really important update that council helped us with. So now I'm just getting into a little bit of the comparisons of the new proposed rates. You'll see on the left that you pay a base charge per meter size every month, and you'll see that there was a reduction when we adjusted from 29% cost recovery down to 25% cost recovery. So your monthly meter fee will go down, or fixed charge will go down, but the volumetric over on the right do go up a little bit. And I have highlighted this ratio between tier 1 and tier 2. They changed this ratio, and in tier 3, to lessen the impact on just indoor residential use, and increased the impact to tier 3 and tier 4, which are typically outdoor water use. And the other two highlighted areas are commercial and institutional. Council gave us direction to combine those two customer classes into one. And these rates per thousand, and maybe even the fixed charge, again, these will probably go down with the recent direction council gave us just 2 days ago. Here I'm showing the results for going, I don't know why I showed this one. I'm going to skip past this one because it's very similar to the last one. Here I'm showing the average bill impacts. So looking at the residential, we're showing 4,000 gallons in a month as an example. And your meter fee plus using 4,000 gallons a month is would be $30.91 currently. So we're showing you with the 5-year adjustments what the impact is. So starting September 1 through next year, that same bill would be $32.04, or the same charges would be $32.04. That is a percent change of 3.7%. And then after that, it's 15% each year. The direction council gave us 2 days ago would change this percent here to 10% each year on water. The reason that these are different for each customer class is we're correcting for the cost of service within each customer class. And that needs to happen every so often so that every customer class is paying their equitable share of their impact on the system. Talking to the Housing Commission, I thought you might be interested in the capacity fees. So again, Those are the fees that a developer or somebody developing an empty lot in Flagstaff pays to have existing capacity and future capacity in the system. And currently, the fee for a 3/4 inch residential meter is $5,700. Where council landed is this option 1B, which would increase that fee to $8,100. And you can see for a 2-inch customer meter what they currently pay and what they would pay. And I don't know. I don't know if these will change after the direction we got two nights ago. They had the option of looking at design standards, which is basically we design the system to meet the peak demands of that new lot or that new development. And the peaking factors generate a much higher calculated fee. This option 1B sticks with the capacity fee model we've been using for, I don't know, maybe even over a decade of the actual data. And there is some money that will go to fund a new groundwater supply, new water supply, sorry, in the future. Putting some money in a bucket for when we need a new water supply. These capacity fees don't cover the entire cost of adding projects to our system for growth. There is a subsidization of capacity projects by the ratepayers, but capacity projects do afford our community more resiliency and reliability. So there is a benefit to everyone from these projects as well. We can talk more if there are questions. And on the wastewater side, these are the changes to capacity fees with the proposed model currently. They selected an option that does put a little bit of money towards the expansion of a wastewater treatment plant over time versus not doing so. And they selected an option that also includes the strength of waste entering our system because it impacts the cost to treat that water at our wastewater treatment plants. So probably too much information, but wanted to provide you with a teaser, I guess, of how all of this is done. And I think I just have two more slides. So just 2 nights ago, we walked into City Council with what is shown here as previous, this blue bar for water and the green bar for wastewater. This was the revenue increase we were looking at each year, 15% across the board for water, and then 25% the first 2 years for wastewater, and then 15, 10, 5. And the final was basically came out of a discussion with council. They changed the levers a little bit. They adjusted the levers in that financial model to minimize the impact on customers. And the resulting revenue increases would be 10% across the board for water, and then reducing by 5% on wastewater, except in fiscal year 29, it would stay the same. This is a substantial, I think it's a substantial reduction to the collection of revenues from our customers. Council will give us kind of final direction on this on June 4th. We'll present to them on June 4th what the impacts are to all the customer classes and all of that. Once we get final direction from them on June 4th, there'll be a first read of these changes on June 18th and a second read July 2nd. And as I mentioned, these rates would be effective September 1. So I'm to the end of the presentation. And I think I went a little over the time I expected to, but I'm glad to take questions. I think our director of water services is also on the call, so I might need his help, but we're here for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the presentation. If any commission members have a comment or a question, or Aaron, if you can put a C or a Q in the chat, so I can recognize you and call on you to get those comments or questions asked or answered or documented, that would be great. We'll just give it a minute here as I'm paying attention to the chat. As we wait, Aaron, I do have a question for you. So I'm wondering, with the proposed changes after the direction from council most recently, where would water and sewer rates kind of fall compared to other cities or jurisdictions of our size in the state?
So we have a couple comparisons. We have Stantec within their report online. They compare us to a number of communities in the Phoenix area and Colorado, sort of similar sized cities. From that, my recollection is we're kind of in the middle, to maybe higher compared to those communities. I could try to pull that up real quick. And then we have a comparison with like Prescott Valley with other rural Arizona cities, might not be the same size. And in that case, we were lower than a lot of those cities currently. And then we looked at a comparison with like Kachina Village, Donny Park, and I could pull those up if I have a minute. Let's see. Oh, I have one here. The tricky part with comparisons is every community has different needs for infrastructure. So in Phoenix, and most communities are doing rate studies and increases. Let me see if I can get this to click off. Are you able to see that slide?
We are, thank you.
So I just got this information from Chino Valley. They just adopted new rates. And so I put on here where our City of Flagstaff current sewer and water total charges compare with. Here we have Chino Valley's, I think that this is their new water sewer charges. Prescott Valley, Camp Verde, Cottonwood, Jerome, Prescott, Sedona, Clarkdale. And I added our current, what our year one, where that would put us, in year 5. The other consideration is I don't know when these other communities last did their rate study. So that's one example. And then I should be able to find where our other similar sized communities, where we land there. But Flagstaff being in an island in northern Arizona, we don't necessarily have the benefit of shared systems, and valley communities do have that benefit in some cases, not all. The smaller communities around Flagstaff, it's interesting, a lot of the water charges are higher, and they have the same deep water wells, and that cost is just spread over less people. So I think typically that's why their fees are higher for at least water. Let's see if I can find. Are there other questions while I pull this last example up?
Does anyone have anything? I have not seen anything in the chat with a Q or a C. I did have, oh, Ross has a queue. So Ross, question?
Yeah, just thank you so much for your presentation. Just one question. I'm trying to understand, and math is not my strong suit. Everyone probably knows that. But I'm just interested in knowing percentage-wise over the next 5 years, can you say from here to year 5 what the percentage increase overall would be?
It varies depending on how much water you use and what customer class you're in. The best way to determine that is to use our rates calculator. Sorry, that's not a great answer, but if there's time, I could do a live demo of it if you wanted.
I guess I'm
lot
just
of
trying to understand the general impact for, you know, a reasonably sized family would be over the next 5 years.
Okay, so I think I have, I can answer that. Generally, rates would double for like a 4,000 or 4,400 gallons a month customer. The bigger impact is on sewer. Council proposed, or we proposed, and council gave a thumbs up on adding a sewer-based charge, just like we have a water-based charge. Adding a sewer-based charge will increase most residential bills by $10 a month. And that's the biggest impact between water and sewer, is just that base fee. But it allows water services to collect revenue from a base fee, which is revenue stability. Right now, all of our revenue on sewer is through volumetric. And it collects that fee whether you're here full-time resident or if you're part-time resident. So from like seasonal residents. Seasonal residents would probably pay like $2 a month when they're not here, but now they would pay $12. That really is the biggest impact to a residential bill. Let me see if I can find an example here. Let me find my. I'm having trouble pulling up an example, but generally it's expect over 5 years for your bill to double over that time period. Let's see. The example I'm looking at, okay, I'll share this. Shannon Jones, hi, you're on here too. If you want to jump in and add anything, please do.
Great, Aaron, thank you. Just while you're looking, I believe there's also a cross-reference to other communities on slide 62.
Oh,
if you have
is
the hidden
there?
deck.
Oh, thank you.
No,
Okay.
but also, so ultimately when we talk about the percent increases, what we're talking about is the required revenue that needs to be collected. So when it talks about the 10% is not a 10% increase to a necessarily to a bill, it's about that revenue recovery. So currently on the path that we're on, the proposal would look for the water services to increase their revenue collection over the next 5 years by about 61%. I think to Aaron's point, depending on whether you're commercial or residential and which tier that you live in, each individual person may see a different impact than just a 60% increase over the 5 years. That's why it's important that we build that calculator and that we point people there where it can get very specific to your use, your size of meter, and your way of life. So hopefully that just answers a little bit. I think for some customers, they could see that double. And if that is the case, I know there's a reaction to that. But again, we're committed to help the customers understand the dynamic of that bill. And I would think if your water bill were to double over the next 5 years, I would assume that you are probably in some of the higher tiers. And we have some great programs and strategies to help people be successful in their water conservation and also help, again, minimize that impact on the pocketbook at the end of the day. So hopefully I helped a little bit with the question. I'm happy to rephrase or any way I can help.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry for the nuanced question. I know that this takes a
No.
lot of, it's not as a simple yes or no. I was just wondering. Thank you.
Great question.
So I pulled up a comparison here with a couple communities. Here's our Flagstaff total for 4,500 gallons. It's about $51.30. Just locally, are looking at other communities' pages for their rates. Donny Park is similar, 48.60. Kachina Village, 77.01. This says water and sewer, but Donny Park doesn't have sewer. So that's important to note. Kachina is water and sewer. Williams is water and sewer, 83.56. And then getting to maybe similar sized communities in the valley, looks like we're near sort of the same ballpark as Avondale. And then Buckeyes are higher. I know Buckeye is working hard to secure 100-year water adequacy, which costs a lot for them. I'm just assuming that might be part of the higher fee. And then we have commercial comparisons on the bottom chart here, assuming just over 50,000 gallons in a month. So
Thanks, Erin. I have another question, not seeing any Qs or Cs. So as a reminder, kind of your last chance to get a Q or C in there. So my question has to do with affordability for lower income users. And this is a utility, and I know that other utilities like gas and electric have a low income assistance program, but the city of Flagstaff does not for water and sewer fees. Is there an ability to add a low income assistance program to this utility in order to make sure these projected costs don't disproportionately impact folks whose incomes are at or below a certain level?
this rate study does not address adding a program. But that has come up at City Council, and ultimately we'd like to probably pitch that question to customer service and work on that with them. But council has asked staff to come back after this rate study and discuss programs that are available, and also looking at, the demographics of our community and where, there might be issues paying for utility bills. So I feel like that is to come, and council has given us that direction to address. I don't know if that was a great answer to your question.
So it was. I appreciate the answer. I appreciate that it's come up. If you're looking for feedback, would be concerned about adding significant rate increases without having a program already identified and available September 1 for folks who are gonna find this to be a significant hit over time to their budget. And I know there's programs to help folks one time with assistance for utilities, but there's not an ongoing source of help. And so when you double someone's water or sewer costs over time and you can help them once, 1 month, that Band-Aid doesn't cover the problem. And so because I know there are resources with other utilities, I would strongly encourage this type of program to be vetted, assessed for financial impact and feasibility of rollout, because I know it'll be more time on city staff to implement. But I don't see how you consider this kind of impact to low income households when there isn't an ongoing resource to help our most vulnerable in our community, as there is with electric and gas. That's just me personally, but
Yeah, we've heard that. We've heard this a number of times. Yeah, you're not the first to raise the potential issue. And Shannon, you came on, so I'd like to hear what you have to say.
No, again, I think it's a great conversation. It's a conversation that we're a part of. I think just a couple of nuances as we begin to unfold that. One is clarifying that, again, not all customers' bills are going to double over the 5 years. It's really going to depend on your use. In addition, that's over 5 years. First year, to Aaron's point, I think what a typical customer could expect to see on their bill is about a $10 a month increase. So again, it's not doubling, right? That first year. Over the 5 years, we acknowledge that there's a compounding increase, but that first year reaction, I think a typical bill would see about a $10 increase to that. In addition, we're still exploring all the options, but it is my current understanding that when, so something like an electrical utility that offers customer assistance or like a low income type credit, that typically that is funded or subsidized through some kind of federal subsidy. So I know there's programs at the federal level that electric companies can sometimes leverage. I don't want to make a blanket statement that they're all that way, but I'm aware of some of those. But ultimately, so I think even groups and teams like we're meeting with today, the Housing Commission, because that's ultimately what we're talking about is when you identify that while there could be some strategies within the utility rate, also keeping in mind that a lot of times those programs are subsidies and it's not necessarily coming just from the rates. If you use rates to subsidize, it really pushes those costs to other customers, as opposed to an independent outside source that allows that cost of service to remain defendable and equitable. But that is one of the other possibilities that we're looking at. So not just looking at the base rate, but knowing that there's other funding sources that help that customer base to be successful. So just a point of clarification, but thank you.
does anyone else have any other questions or comments? I'll kind of call for last call on those before letting our guests wrap up their presentation and answers. Okay, seeing none, I want to thank you all for coming and presenting and answering questions. We appreciate the opportunity to hear about potential program impacts to affordability in general. And so thank you very, very much. It was informative and helpful. I'll move on to item 7B, which is an overview of the 10-year housing plans 2024-25 implementation plan. This is an information item only with the opportunity for commissioners to provide comments, and I believe I turn it over to Justina at this time.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Justina Costa. I am your Assistant Housing Director. This presentation will most likely be a tag team between Sarah Dar and myself. I want to give, first of all, I want to say that if my camera starts acting up or you can't hear me for some reason, please somebody stop me and let me know because I cannot see the chat. Can you see the presentation okay?
I can.
Awesome,
Yes.
Thank you. So kudos to Adriana Fisher, who created this presentation for us. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here today, so it was not done by us, and therefore I may stumble a little bit in trying to interpret some of the things that she has in here, but we'll get through it together. I will try to be short. There's a lot written here. You all were sent in your agenda packet the actual 24-25 implementation plan for the 10-year housing plan. So you have that in your agenda packet. It is much more detailed and comprehensive. This presentation is just meant to summarize the strategies that we will be bringing forward and just kick us off in a conversation if there are other things that the commission would like for us to incorporate in this coming fiscal year. So let's dive in. So in today's presentation, we're going to give some background to some of the commissioners that are newer. We're going to talk about how the 10-year plan was created. We're going to talk about the reporting and implementation schedule that we have committed to follow to ensure transparency and accountability. we're going to talk about the strategies that we will be implementing in the next fiscal year, both the strategies for the fiscal year as well as ongoing strategies that we have that are not tied to a specific fiscal year. And then, of course, I will make sure to leave time for questions and comments. So here's how the housing plan was created. In 2020, City Council received a citizen petition for the declaration, asking for the declaration of a housing emergency. That declaration was made by City Council in 2020. And as part of that, City Council tasked the housing staff with creating a 10-year housing plan. And so we did that, and that plan was approved in 2022. It had a ton of community feedback and involvement, and we're incredibly proud of the document that has been produced. So that plan again was adopted in February of 2022. It has one overarching goal and 2 fundamental elements. It has 13 large policy initiatives and 58 comprehensive strategies. So just as a reminder for some of you newbies and some of you who have been on here for a while, the overarching goal of the 10-year plan is to reduce the current affordable housing need in our community by half over the next 10 years. And the 2 elements that'll help us get there are for us to be able to impact at least 6,000 low to moderate income Flagstaff residents. That's key here, Flagstaff residents, through a combination of unit creation and subsidy provision. And then, of course, our second element is to create or preserve 7,976 units, actual units, by 2031, with a minimum of 10% of those units being affordable. And this will increase our overall supply of all housing, so market rate, workforce, and affordable housing. And that housing in our goal is to be occupied by local Flagstaff residents. So here's our reporting and implementation schedule. We are right here in May and are here to present to you, the Housing Commission, the annual implementation plan. In June, once we gather your feedback, we'll present the implementation plan to City Council. In August, we will come back to the Commission and report on last year's accomplishment of the last year's implementation plan. And then in September, we'll take that to City Council for their review and approval. So let's jump into the actual implementation plan. Like I mentioned, it was attached in your packet. It has a very similar format to the one we had last year. Which was our 18-month implementation plan. The reason that this year it's for 12 months and last year it was for 18 months was because when the housing plan, the 10-year housing plan had gotten approved, there was a 6-month gap of time. And so we just kind of lumped it all into an 18-month chunk of time for the implementation plan. But from now on, you'll see annual 12-month implementation plans. We added policy initiatives, and then the important thing that you'll see that we changed the status from percentages. We used to have, oh, it's 10% complete or 30% complete. Now it's a little graphic. So you see the little hourglass, which stands for in progress, or the stop sign for not started. And then just to mention, our annual report that you'll see coming in August will have completed strategies as well. So that's going to be the difference there. In the strategy implementation, on the 10-year housing plan, there's a chart, and the chart outlines all of the strategies, and it has these categories. And these categories, I'm not going to read them to you, but you can see them. So there's these categories that help us as staff determine which factors we will utilize in establishing strategies for the next coming year. So things like time commitment, whether public engagement is necessary, whether something requires council consideration, what departments need to be collaborated with, things like that. So all of those things help us to make sure that we underpromise and overdeliver in what we say we're going to do, and how we kind of pick which strategies we're going to be able to deliver on in that coming fiscal year, and not just housing, obviously, but our partners as well, making sure that the partners, the other city departments and sections are able to achieve the things that we say we're going to achieve. And so just diving right in, here are 4 strategies for the next fiscal year. As you can see, they've all been started. And these 4 strategies, we've lumped them together because they're specific to the regional plan update. The regional plan update, as many of you know, is underway, and the update will go to City Council for approval by June of 2025, and then voters will ratify the update in November of 2025 if everything goes according to plan. And so these are the 4 strategies. I'll give you some time to read them that are associated with that. I'm happy if people jump in and have questions along the way, so feel free to interrupt me and make this informal. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next ones. These next strategies are, I can get into these a little bit because these are kind of one-off strategies that are not combined in any way. So Create 3.2 is to create a fund for the purpose of acquiring land and units for affordable housing in order to be able to respond to opportunities as they arise. As you can see, that status says it's in progress, and that is because housing staff has requested $500,000 through the city's budget process that we're actually in right now. And that, if approved by City Council in June, will be effective on July 1. So that one is in progress. Create 1.2, create a housing navigator or advocate position to assist both landlords and housing challenged populations in securing and maintaining housing. This is also in progress because this position request was recommended for ongoing funding within, again, this coming fiscal year. And again, if approved by council in June, will become effective on July 1st. Preserve 2.2, acquire and rehabilitate already built properties for affordable housing projects when financially feasible. This has not been started yet. And mind you, we're just at the very beginning of the implementation plan, so some of these things that haven't been started definitely will be sooner than later. And then lastly, we have Protect 2.4, which is to implement a public outreach campaign to educate the community about the critical role affordable housing plays in a thriving community, create a groundswell of support for affordable housing, and combat community opposition to housing and affordable housing in general. So again, this one is in progress. Housing staff have done extensive outreach since probably about 2022 in various ways. Social media, we did a public education campaign over Housing America Month, and we do plan to do a larger comprehensive housing section rebranding coming in the next year, kind of a new logo, things like that, as well as really tackling this strategy itself and educating the public about housing in general. These 4 strategies are all related, and they're all in progress, and they're all tied to the last cap project that the city is undergoing currently. If you all remember, Michelle McNulty came and presented to the Housing Commission, I believe a few months ago now, and gave you all a pretty in-depth overview of what that process has been like, what their plans are, and what they've been working on with the consultants. We've had housing staff heavily involved in this process, and we are confident that these 4 strategies will be completed, if not within this next fiscal year, then definitely within the next 2 fiscal years. So I'll give you a minute to read these. Okay, a couple more slides. Oops, just make sure. Okay, same with these slide or these four connect, these three connect and one protect strategies. They're also in progress. Connect 1.3, continue to support and develop coordinated entry as a meaningful process that provides linkages to healthcare, behavioral health, and housing. Connect 2.1, evaluate housing policies and strategies in Flagstaff's planning documents through an equity lens. Connect 2.2, encourage community organizations such as the local continuum of care to continue to integrate equity into programs and policies. And then Connect 1.2, pursue local and legislative changes that increase the preservation, creation, and protection of affordable housing as necessary. All of these have been started in some shape or form. However, we're definitely going to expand on them in the coming year. And then lastly, we have two ongoing strategies that we haven't started, although Create 1.7, we have recently started. Just clearly this slideshow is a little older than that. So that one is to explore ways to incentivize employers to offer incentivize employers to offer employer-assisted housing programs. So the housing section is always looking at ways to do this. And then Connect 3.1, raise awareness of housing security as a social determinant of health. So those are the strategies that you'll see in the implementation plan, and I'm happy to start a conversation and chat if there are questions that you will have. Sarah is on as well, so she can hop in. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see my screen, if you all don't mind. Awesome.
I had a quick question.
Of course.
This is Eric Brownfield. I don't know if you can pull the slide up again. I don't know the number exactly, but it was one of your implementations was that you wanted to add 7,000 units or over 7,000 units, 10,000 being affordable. What's the criteria for the 7,000? I mean, are those affordable too, or what do you qualifying those 7,000 to be? Or over 7,000 units?
So 10% to be affordable.
I understand that, but then the 7,000, what's the criteria for those? Is it just any house, any unit? What is the unit qualified?
Very good question. So very good question. So when we wrote the when we wrote the 10-year housing plan, we gathered permit data from historical permit data and projected using that data forward. And so in later conversations, these numbers are on the lower end of kind of what the city of Flagstaff needs in terms of projections and population growth and things like that. However, we felt very comfortable to say that historically we produced this many, housing units of all sorts. So single family townhomes, everything in between over the last 10 years. And so we felt comfortable projecting that going forward. And with that, council had made the commitment to try to achieve 10% of that number being affordable. Again, as you all know, in Flagstaff or in Arizona, we can't mandate affordability. And so this is just our goal that we hope to incentivize. Did that answer?
Yes, thank you.
You got it.
I wish it was higher than 10%. I know what you mean.
Yeah, definitely. So do we.
Thanks, Eric. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Justina on the implementation plan for 2024-2025? Justina, I had a question for you on it. Not seeing any Q's or C's. So I'm wondering, out of those strategies that you guys identified, which ones, and maybe or don't know off the top of your head, are tied directly back to the housing bond? I mean, I can think about the adaptive reuse one perhaps directly, but maybe employer assisted housing. But I don't know if the bond helps us further any of the goals in the plan, and if we can tie those two together to show how they help each other.
So you hit it on the head. Go ahead, Sarah. I'll let you jump in.
I'll give Justina a break for talking for a second. When the 10-year plan was written, of course, we didn't have an approved housing bond. And so when we were working with you and with City Council to create what we would ask the community to fund within those bond funds, we were able to wrap goals from the 10-year housing plan into that. So you're exactly straight on, but I wanted to fix the chicken egg. We had the plan first, the bond funding second. And so there is a relationship within that, but the strategies within the plan do not call out specifically, this is a bond funded program. So yes, there's the money for adaptive reuse. There's the employer assisted housing. There's the expansion of the down payment and closing cost. There's redevelopment of our public housing sites. All of those things that are in the bond are in the 10-year plan. And so we will, as we work through program implementation with those bond funds, incentives, the rental incentives that were recently adopted are also in there. So as we work towards that implementation, I will also be answering things within the 10-year plan. But there isn't, the 10-year plan does not say with bond funding do this. So it won't be quite that clean cut and clear, but in the accomplishments, they will be referenced. Of course, presenting a bond matter for consideration to the community was also a goal within the 10-year plan. So that one's marked completed. So that's how those things are interrelated. And as we bring forward the home buyer assistance program in the next month, where are we? 2 months? Next month, I think. And we've already had some discussions on that. Those will again relate back to the 10-year plan.
Thank you for that explanation. I knew it helped us achieve some of these strategies and goals. So I appreciate that that'll be called out probably more so in the accomplishments document as opposed to the these are the goals document for the next year.
That's exactly how those are related. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Does anyone else have any Q's or C's for our lovely housing staff to be able to answer for this topic? All right, I'm gonna get back to my agenda. Hold, please. Sorry. Okay. Oh, sorry. Erin posted in there, kudos to the housing team and housing commission. The 10-year housing plan and implementation plans are initiatives that impact the core of Flagstaff being a sustainable community. Thank you for your efforts. So thanks, Erin, for that comment in there in our chat. Alrighty, seeing no additional folks who want to comment or question, I'm going to move on to the next agenda item, which is 8 informational items to and from commission members, staff, and future agenda item requests. So 8A is an update from our Housing Authority liaison. Commissioner Milazzo, do you have any information or a report to share?
Commissioner Milazzo is currently camping near Bryce.
Dang, I knew that, and I don't know why I was.
I know you knew that.
Yeah, I know.
We did not have business. Did we have business last month? I want to say we canceled the most recent meeting. We're anticipating having a special meeting coming up within June to consider an emerging opportunity. So there'll be more on that one later. We also have been giving various presentations to the Housing Authority Board in reference to programmatic details, how things like repayment agreements work, why they exist. And there's a new, it's not that new, it's called HOTMA. I don't remember what it stands for, but it's a fairly large programmatic adaptation and rework of some regulatory features that we have the ability to figure out how we're going to incorporate into our programs. And so we have been working through some of those. The difficult thing about HOTMA is that HUD passed it. Well, Congress passed pieces of it. HUD's in charge of implementation. There's implementation deadlines, but there's a lot of questions. We've been told, thank you, Councilmember House. Somehow I got muted. I hope I wasn't muted that whole time.
You weren't.
Okay, good. So there are things within HOTMA that say we have to do them, but the underlying HUD regulations say that we can't do them that way. And so all housing authorities across the nation are waiting for additional guidance from HUD to tell us, well, do we comply with this, but it doesn't repeal this one? How do we do that functionally? And so the ones that are slam dunks are easy to do. We are in the process of incorporating, and others we are in a holding pattern until we receive more detailed guidance. And it's not that HUD isn't aware of that. It's something that they're working on as well.
I know that's a big thing for low-income housing tax credit properties, home compliance properties, et cetera. HOTMA is the buzzword in our organization right now too, Sarah. So yeah.
It is, and it's not as clear as I think any of us would like it to be. We are regulators. We work within regulations all the time, and we're industry-wide struggling with how do we implement something that says that requires us to do something another regulation says we can't. So yeah, fun times.
Awesome. Thank you for that update. We'll look forward to an exciting, hopefully one next time around, after you guys discuss opportunities. Item number 8B is an update from housing commissioners and other informational items. So I open it up to my fellow commissioners if you have things to share or update with the commission. Giving everyone an opportunity to find their C or Q in there, or just say who you are and that you want to comment. Happy to have folks speak up. While we wait for anyone, I do have a question that I'd like to pose, because of course I do, sorry. But I know that the legislature just passed two bills dealing with ADU regulation and then middle housing, the missing middle housing regulatorily in single family home jurisdictions. I'm wondering if our housing folks and or planning folks can get back to the Housing Commission at a future meeting to talk about how or if these Arizona laws will impact Flagstaff. Not putting you on the spot now because I know it's new legislation, but just wondering if they will be impactful, have any difference to what our zoning code already does or doesn't do, et cetera. So if that could be something we just have an information thing on in the future, Sarah?
I'm nodding, but I also see that Christina Rubalcava, our city senior assistant city attorney, just raised her hand. And so I think I would like to punt to her, but from a staff perspective, yes, we have not had time to do that analysis yet, but I'll let Christina answer that one.
Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon, commissioners. Yeah, just wanted to let you know we have copies of those bills. The ADU regulations, we have to have our changes in place by January 1st of 2025. The middle housing bill that passed, that'll be 2026. So you'll see those coming to you staggered. We're going to concentrate on the ADU legislation first. I've talked to Tiffany Antal, our zoning code administrator, and she is working hard on the necessary code changes that we will need for that ADU legislation, which will allow not just one ADU, but twos, and make some changes to how big they can be. And so there will definitely be some changes needed to our code. And so we will be getting to those shortly, hopefully after the summer, I anticipate in the fall. And so when we have those ready, I'll let Tiffany know, and I'm sure Sarah will too, about the request, so we can make sure we come to the Housing Commission and answer any of our questions. It'll be normally when we do code changes that are voluntary, we like to get a lot of public input. This one's a little different, not that we don't like the input, but it's hard to get input and then tell people we got you, but we still have to do it this way because that's what the state says. They are mandatory changes that we'll be making, but definitely happy to come around and give you more information when we have that developed.
Thanks, Christina. I appreciate, just for FYI for us, if nothing else, about how it could impact opportunities and affordability. So thank you. And I see Commissioner Flores, Karen has a question in the chat.
Yes, thank you. Sarah, you mentioned that we might hear next month some updates on the bond money and down payment assistance and everything. Can you share with us where we're at with that, what the timelines look like? Because I do have, and I know obviously Devonna can speak to this as well, but I have so many clients that are desperately trying to buy a house but need funds, and we're depleted at the moment. So just curious where we're at.
Thank you. And Justina's messaging me and telling me that I was wrong. We're looking at July for that because we have some additional details, T's to cross and I's to dot regarding the use of bond funds in this way. And while we have taken the discussions the commission had and are working through those various pieces and ideas and putting together something for consideration, we also have to make sure that bond council is approving of those funds being used in that way. And so that is an extra step for us to undertake. We, in the 2024-25 budget, the Community Homebuyer Assistance Program, CHAP, will still exist. We had, I want to say, a little over 300,000, I think it's $360,000, that will continue to run the program as it is now, so that there will be the smallest gap possible, hopefully none, before that money is spent and the bond money can go into place. And so we made sure to budget that program income in that direction so that the program would not be out of money while we are finishing the legal and input processes. Does that help, Karen? I'm sorry, Commissioner Flores.
That's okay. Yeah, it definitely helped. So, I mean, obviously right now though, we do have that gap. Do we, unless there's money available that I'm not aware of?
360,000 coming July 1.
July 1. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
sorry. When I said fiscal years, that probably so I'm being corrected again. Thank you, staff. 176,116. That 300,000 must be a different number in my head. So not as much as I said, but it will be there. Effective July 1, pending council approval of the budget. However, we've already been through budget retreat and there was no indication that they were not interested in approving these funds. Council typically is very supportive of the continuation of this program. And it is, of course, our goal to work as much as we can so that that there isn't a gap to move within those timeframes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. I really appreciate it.
Any other, Jackie is asking the amount again. So for CHAP funding as of July 1, it was 176,000. I lost track of that, right?
I'm pulling up $176,116 is the new allocation into that pot as of July 1. And again, I recognize that is not a ton of money, but it is a definite gap filler while we get approval.
Thank you. All right, any other questions, comments, things to share with other commissioners? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 8C, which is an update from housing staff. So I'll turn it over to housing staff, generally speaking, for any update. Justina or Sarah or anybody, do you guys have any? Oh, there's Jen coming on.
I can jump in really quick. I just wanted to have a really quick update about the new 2024 AMI limits that we developed those in April. Since we didn't meet, we didn't have a housing commission meeting in April, so we just wanted to share that information with everybody now. So just a reminder to everyone, we have 3 different income limit tables depending on the housing program you're using. And a really brief takeaway about the income limits this year is that the income limits did go up generally. And the median household income for a family of 4 in Flagstaff is now $108,600. Last year it was $105,000. So excuse me. So in the June newsletter that's about to go out in about a week or so, Those new income limit tables will be included in that newsletter, so you can see that information there. They're also posted to our website. But if you need to access any income limits, ask any housing staff member. We'll get you the right table depending on the program you need it for. So thanks.
Jen, are not those tables also available on our website if people wanted to look?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And just as a follow-up, those numbers, those changes that HUD does every year, sometime in the spring, adjust programs like the Community Homebuyer Assistance Program, Down Payment Assistance Program. So those updated flyers are on the Housing Solutions website in case you wanted to see how they adjusted for eligibility per household size for the city's funded down payment assistance program right now.
Thank you.
All right, any other, is Marissa, you got something for us?
I do. I did want to note, so on Tuesday, City Council did approve our annual action plan for CDBG. So we are working on our environmentals for those new funds that are going out. And then we did in April and May, we had 2 affordable homes close, which is very exciting.
Awesome. Thanks, Marissa. Any other staff updates? No, Adriana's not here. I'm trying to think. Oh, is Christine, is there anything from her? Oh, that's it from you. Okay, Justina, just let me know. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so then moving along on our agenda, it really looks like we adjourn at this point. So I just want to give one more second for anybody who wants to speak up now for any future agenda item requests. That's not a call out, but it's in this section, or anything else you want to share before we say goodbye. All right, seeing none, I want to thank our presenters, thank staff, and thank y'all for sharing your time and expertise with us. And we will adjourn as of 2:40. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Devonna.
Thank you, Devonna.
Bye, guys.